What is up, everyone? We are live for the New York Mets postgame show. Obviously, joined by my co host Nelson. May as well be a co host, Matt from Flushing Sunny 41. Amish Country Mets fan here, Nelson. What's up, fellas? We got a big win today. We're going to get all into it, all discussing it. How are we feeling? How's the vibes? How's the energy?
No, it's all right. I mean, it's hard to get too excited, man. You've seen this team win games, and you think, all right, maybe this is when we finally turn it around, and then they shit the bed all over again. So we'll
Agreed,
hold
agreed. Yeah,
we'll hold back
definitely
on
nothing to
the
hold our
excitement.
breaths over. Nothing to hold our breaths over just yet. But how you feeling, Matt?
Listen, we needed a win. We got to win. Like we say every time they do this, try to go on a roll. Try to make this turn into 2, 3, 4 in a row. Do something productive. Um, I'm with you, Nelson. I mean, it's frustrating. You see them do something like this. I mean, obviously Houston didn't have their ace on the mound, but still, come out, you score 11 runs, and Scherzer.
That kid's
Still,
pretty good, though.
he was all right. I mean, I don't know. They made light work of him, but yeah, I guess I don't really know. But what was? Well, I guess we'll go into the details later. But great game by Scherzer. Great
Yeah.
game by Scherzer.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into it. Definitely get into it if you're tuning in. Like I said, appreciate you tuning in. Drop those comments. If you're tuning in for the Twitter, not sure if I can get comments there, but definitely appreciate you tuning in as well. Go over to the YouTube. I have the link on my Twitter page. You can definitely go ahead and drop those comments we're going to be discussing. I'll just display it on the screen. The whole 9 yards. So as always, guys, make sure you drop a like, thumbs up the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Not only my own, but we got the guys here with me. Got Nelson from Amish Country Mets fan on YouTube and Amish Country Met on Twitter. Go ahead and check him out. Check his stuff out as well. Matt over here to my left. We got at Flushing Sunny 41, both on YouTube and Twitter. He has a YouTube page as well that I'll eventually link here in this description. So want to get you a couple subscriptions whenever you start to take off on your YouTube experience. We'll get you right. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. We got a lot to talk about. Before we talk about this Mets win, this huge Mets win, follow my pod on Twitter and Instagram at CPNY Sports. I just stood up a new Instagram page as well. Go shoot a follow over there as well for that. And then our new project starting June 27th. It's going to be the Interstate Mets Report. Nelson and I are standing that up, debuting June 27th. We got a little bit of a nice graphic for you all to see and of what's to come. And our lovely faces are on the display here. And we'll be going over to Mets Day After show, going over some series previews, recaps, talking a little bit about the prospects, state of the Mets, all that good stuff. So tune in June 27th. It's going to be streaming to both of our YouTube channels. Subscribe, and that's going to be kicking off underway on June 27th. But, like we mentioned, Mets win today. It was a great win, headlined by Max Scherzer going 8 innings strong, 11-1 win. The offense came up. They showed out. I think the consensus the past couple of days for me has definitely been that the offense has been showing out and the pitching has been needing to kind of step up a little bit. Today we got that from the ace. One of the aces, a co-ace, Max Scherzer. 8 innings pitched, as you can see on the display here. 8 strikeouts over those 8 innings, 4 hits, and only 1 earned run given up. First and foremost, I'm going to make this tradition now. Game ball. Game ball for me, 100%. It can go to 2 players in my mind, to be honest with you. My game ball, obviously, you have to give it to Max Scherzer. But my co-game ball is none other than Mr. Smile himself. 5 RBIs, Francisco Lindor. Great to see him, put together a nice game at the plate from the left-handed side as well, which is always a plus to get some competitive at-bats from him from the left-handed side. 5 RBIs. He's now up to 50 RBIs on the season. Nelson, who is your game ball going to?
I mean, we all know Lindor's my guy, but I can't not give it to Max. Max just was phenomenal. And we've shown time and time again we can put up all the offense we want. If the pitching doesn't show up, we still find ways to lose. So you got to give it to Max. But shout out Lindor, man. He's ever since he had the baby, he's starting to put it together some decent games. Let's hopefully he can keep it going, because like the team itself, he gets on a roll for a couple days and then he tanks again. So need to see him stay consistent.
Yep. Give props are due. Max Scherzer definitely stepping up after struggling just a bit. Shout out, one comment on Lindor. Matt and I were chopping it up a little earlier today. Obviously didn't hit the paternity list. Congratulations to him, his newborn. He pinch hit later in the game, but he never won the paternity list. And I think it's just a testament to the type of player that he is, the type of teammate that he is. Congrats to him. Want to see him start, putting it together and kind of getting that production that we all need and expect from Lindor. So Matt, on to you. Game ball for you. Is it going to be Mr. Scherzer, or who's it going to be tonight?
You got me looking for a ball here. I can't find one. I'm going to grab my water bottle.
All right.
Two game balls going out today. One to a player, one to a guy on the pod. Yesterday was Father's Day. Nelson, happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Fathers out there. We were just talking about Lindor having that kid, not going on the paternity list. Happy Father's Day to you, Nelson. You get a game ball.
Thank you.
You get a game ball. You get a game ball. Listen, I could say Lindor. I could say Scherzer. This isn't so much a knock on them. They were great tonight. Lindor was fantastic. Scherzer, probably his best start as a Met. Maybe outside of the Subway Series last year. I think he had 7 against the Yankees at Citi Field, maybe 1 or 2 runs. Anyway, game ball, Daniel Vogelbach. He went 2 for 5 today, 3 RBI, 1 home run. Not the greatest day in the world, but way to kind of break out of a slump, way to continue the success, and way to bring that power from the left side into another ballpark and put us on the board early. So game ball, Daniel Vogelbach. I've been killing
Daniel Vogelbach.
I've been killing him on this show, so I'm going to give credit where the credit's due and put my money where my mouth is. He's not out of the doghouse yet, but today was a great step.
We'll definitely get to Daniel Vogelbach. I don't think he's back, but I respect you keeping it interesting. Last live, it was the umpire that got the game ball for you. Now it's Daniel Vogelbach, and I respect the spiciness of these distributions of these game balls. So just want to shout out everybody tuning in, especially dropping the comments, talking Mets with Rob. Went on the Roundtable Pod with him earlier on his channel. Shout out Rob. Make sure you're tuning into his YouTube channel. Go check out the show. Go check out, the pods that we do. He did a nice in-game live today. He goes live for in-game on his channel, so go check him out. Shout out Rob, always hosting the pod every Monday nights, the Roundtable Pod. Don't miss that. And he said, "Vogie, baby." So let's since we're on the topic, obviously we got a nice win. We'll talk about the state of the Mets in terms of how we're feeling with the win, kind of expanding on what we talked about before. Listen. Daniel Vogelbach is a guy that I've been killing so far this season, right? And I did the same thing with Tommy Pham, and I wanted to say first and foremost, shout out Tommy Pham, the Pham train. I'm on it. I'm riding it. Dude, this guy is legit. The last 3 weeks has been showing the utmost consistency, has been the best Mets hitter in this lineup. So shout out Tommy Pham first and foremost. Daniel Vogelbach, great game today. Couple base knocks. I'm not going to say he's back. I think Mets Twitter was trolling a little bit. I don't think that we have any reason to say that he's back just yet. And I'm rooting for the guy. I want him to succeed. I don't know if he should still be on this roster. I'm not going to say he's back. Obviously, a lot of people were saying he was back after the Cardinals home run, after the whole mental break that he got from Buck Showalter. I'm not going to say he's back, but it's encouraging to see what we saw today. Nelson, Daniel Vogelbach, thoughts? Let me hear him.
He had one good game. Good for him. You can't. He has a lot more to prove. Before I start giving him too much credit. But no, good. Listen, I've never been. We've all been on the get Daniel Vogelbach off the team, but I've never been one to start insulting him or calling him names like happens a lot. I don't do that. I don't think that's cool. But he had a nice game, and hopefully he can continue it, man. We can use all the help we can get, and if Vogelback is hitting and he stays on the team the rest of the year and contributes, I'm not going to complain. That's for sure.
Yep. No, and Matt, I want to ask you as well. We got some Daniel Vogelback. And I'm not going to say you're an enthusiast, Matt, but you're definitely a little bit more optimistic about him than Nelson and I are. That's the sort of vibe I get. I want to ask you, Matt, personally, you. Obviously, we talked about it. Vientos being sent down. What was it yesterday? A couple days ago.
Yeah.
Vientos is now sent down. That should make room for more Vogelback at bat to the DH spot. Not that it really mattered anyway, because it was sort of a platoon thing, anyways, with the righty lefty matchups. But regardless, Vientos is sent down. Vogelback is going to be in this lineup. They gave him that little break. They seem to be wanting to stick with him on this roster. Where are you at with the Vientos decision? I want to get your thoughts on that, and then say whatever you need to say about Daniel Vogelback if you have anything else to add about him.
I think that was the right move, and we had said it a million times on here. If you're not going to give Vientos at bats, he shouldn't be here. I think we all believe, and I think we still believe that Vogelback should have gotten cut, and it should be Vientos' at bats. But the organization, the manager, someone doesn't agree with us. Somebody cashing checks and making decisions doesn't agree with us. So, in terms of the Mets organization, I think this was the right move. If you're not going to give the guy at bats, send him back up to Syracuse and let him swing up there. Is he going to get any better hitting 350 against AAA pitching? No, he's not. And the same goes for Ronnie Mauricio. But listen, it is what it is, and what we could do is we could talk about what we see. That's all we could do, because we're enthusiasts, we're spectators, we're fans. So the guy that was playing for Vientos tonight went 2 for 5, hit a home run, and got 3 RBIs. It's a weird kind of position that we're in, right? With social media, where we just talk about things, and we have a platform. Everybody has a platform. You have a username, you have a password, you have a platform. I don't ever like calling for someone to get cut, for a manager to get fired, because at the end of the day, are they getting paid? Of course they are. Are they worried about how they put food on the table? No, they're not. They don't worry about a mortgage. They don't worry about the things that we worry about, but that's still your livelihood. That's still what you do for a living. And when you're a guy like Vogelback, that's in like his mid-30s, you expect to still be doing this for a while. So no, I don't wish the guy gets cut. Do I think he should? Yeah. Do I think he's been lackluster? He's been embarrassing? Yeah. But you know what? If what he needed was a mental break, a week of no at-bats, and, now maybe this is more of what we could see, then that's great. And I hope that's the case. I hope if Vientos comes back up here, it's because of injury. And I hope no one gets hurt, knock on wood. But I hope everybody on this team, proves me wrong, just like Pham did, right? We were called for Pham's job. I'm thankful that Pham proved me wrong. And I hope Vogelback does. And listen, guys, just for the record, in all fairness, he's been horrific this season, no doubt. But, if you look at his career numbers, you look at what this guy does, he's good at 2 things, slugging and getting on base. So if he could somewhat get back to that, and it's not a wasted at bat every time, then I think we'll feel a lot better about him. But he's got to prove it. And Nelson, to your credit, it's 1 good game, now 2 against the Cardinals. So he's got to continue it. He's got to continue it, no doubt.
I definitely agree, and we'll definitely see if he can. I just need to see the same type of progression that I saw from Tommy Pham in order to be officially on that kind of train and bandwagon. But it's good to see to start off. We need to see the games pile on top of each other, and the same goes for the Mets all around. Which brings me to my next point, my next topic area. Listen, regardless of what happened today around the league, going into today's game before the win, the Mets are 5.5 out of a wild card spot. I think the idea behind what we've been talking about the last couple of days is that the Mets are now 12.5 back going into today in the division. The Braves have one of the best records in NL. I don't know if it's the Mets are not winning this division. I'll just say that right now. I know Nelson said the same thing on Twitter. To me, the Mets are not in any sort of space to go and make a run to the division. Matt, you can disagree. I will let you have your point on it, but I'm calling it now. Mets are not winning this division, so I like to see a run at the wild card. We're 5.5 back. That's nothing by any stretch of the imagination. That is nothing. But you look at the teams that are ahead of the Mets right now. These are the same teams that we will be facing. The Mets will be facing after this Astros series. Starting after this Astros series, the Phillies, the Giants. Let me see. I have it right here. The Phillies, the Brewers, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, who are now 15 games over 500. And then the Padres going right before the All-Star break. We said on the podcast, talking Mets with Rob said it. Rob said on his podcast today, the Mets, we've been saying it for some weeks now, right? It's a useless. It's kind of the same drum being beaten. But if the Mets somehow find a way to get hot over these next couple of series against the teams that are directly in front of them in the wild card race, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to put up or shut up if you are the New York Mets. If you want to turn this around now, it's going to be against the teams you're playing after the Astros series. Nelson, these teams that they're playing in the wild card standings are directly ahead. Do you think that this roster, the way this roster is constructed right now, obviously we also have the trade deadline approaching. I think it's next month. I think it's late July, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong
I
about
say
that.
it's like August. They pushed it back to like August 1st or 2nd or something.
I think it's August 1st, right? So do you think the way this roster's been performing right now and the way it's currently constructed, that this team is going to sneak into the wild card spot? Obviously, I just talked about this upcoming important stretch. What's the end goal for you in terms of the wild card? Which wild card spot are you realistically looking at? Because right now they're 7.5 back of the Marlins, who are red hot. They just were up last time I checked against the Blue Jays 10-0. That team is no joke either. The Phillies are hot. The Diamondbacks, like I said, are leading their division in NL West, right? And the Giants are not too far behind them. So a lot of teams that we haven't expected to be here are suddenly playing great baseball, and it's now mid-June. So where do you see the Mets stacking up in the NL East, even if they can, or not the NL East, but the NL in general, in terms of grabbing a wild card spot? Nelson, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I've been saying for a while now that my goal has been a wild card. Just the way we've been playing, I didn't see us catching the Braves, and I certainly don't see it now at 12 and a half, 12 games back. That's a lot of games to make up, and I don't necessarily think we're that good enough to do it. The wild card, I just want any wild card spot. I don't care which one it is. Just get me in the playoffs.
Yep.
5 game, like I said earlier on the show we were on, Totem Pole Nation or whatever, it's starting to get late fast. So you have to stay within these 5 games to be able to make a run. If we start to dip 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games out, that's going to be a problem. I think as constructed, I think the team can make a third wild card. There's a lot of teams to jump. That's a long list of teams. So we need to get hot, and we need some of these other teams to falter a little bit. To your point, we're playing a lot of these teams coming up. So hopefully we can help ourselves a little bit.
So
and then where we are at the end of July is it's gonna determine what this front office decides to do. I'm pretty sure if we're within 3, 4, 5 games of the wild card, we're gonna see them make a move to try to get better, to make that push. But if we're 6, 7, 8, 9 games out, we might either stand pat or try to sell off any pieces that we can. But so yeah, this next month is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, that was a conversation that we were having earlier today too about the trade deadline, whether they're going to be staying pat being buyers or sellers. I firmly believe, regardless of how many games that this team is back, I really think that the moves are going to be less significant than even we saw last year. Obviously, they brought in Ruff, Vogelback, and Naquin. I really think on the last live stream, we talked about this, about David Stearns coming on board and just holding the prospects off until this front office gets some direction. To your point, Miami's the first wild card right now. They're 7.5 games above the Mets right now for that wild card spot. The Giants and Dodgers are 2-3. Teams above the Mets right now for that third wild card spot. Phillies, Brewers, Padres, Pirates, and the Mets are now tied with the Chicago Cubs, which is pretty sad to say on June 19th. Hopefully the tide starts turning here a little bit. Matt, over these next couple of weeks before the All-Star game, what are you expecting for the Mets? Because, like I said, all the teams I just listed in this wild card, the Mets are going to be seeing a lot of these teams that they need to leap.
I think we're looking way too far. Okay, this time last year we were 8-9 games up in our division. Okay, and we know how that story ended. Okay, this year you've got a lot of teams, the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are overperforming. The Mariners are underperforming. The Blue Jays are kind of underperforming. The Dodgers are underperforming. The Padres are underperforming. Remember the 2021 Mets. This was a team that was leading all year that completely fell apart in the end when it mattered most because they really didn't have the firepower to get it done. Okay? They beat up against some bad teams. They kind of had some moments where they got hot, but they never at any point put the division away, the league away, nothing. And what happened? It crumbled. Okay, so just like we're all sitting here in fourth place, upset as we should be, right? Because we cover the Mets. This is what we do. We should be upset because they are failing. They are not exceeding expectations. They're missing expectations, no doubt. Remember the 2007 Mets. Remember the I shouldn't say the 2006 Mets, but the 2007, the 2008 Mets. These were teams that were killing all year and completely fell apart in September. Who's to say that doesn't happen to anybody else? Nothing is guaranteed in this league. The only thing that this team can do is beat the guys in front of them. And like you said, Chris, right now, a great stretch. This is a great stretch to come out. I'm trying to use clean language, so kick some butt, right? Stack up some wins, and then wherever they are at the All-Star break is where they are at the All-Star break. I don't think you're going to see them make a big move. I think they're done with those like mediocre moves that they've made in the past 2 years, and I think that they're done giving away prospects. I think they want to see what they have in these guys. That being said, someone like but even the guys we have, what we have is not going to bring in a Shohei Ohtani anyway. And I think Steve is banking on really trying to woo him in free agency. So I don't think that there's any firepower coming in free agency. Maybe a bullpen arm, maybe. Outside of that, I mean, unless somehow, the clock gets close to midnight and the White Sox decide to sell and they didn't get any good offers. Yeah, maybe we see a Lance Lynn, a Lucas Giolito. Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't bank on it. I think what you see with this roster is what you're going to get. And let's be real, guys. Like they're playing like crap. There's no doubt about it. But there's a tremendous amount of talent. Forget the payroll. There's a tremendous amount of talent on this team. Okay, there is no reason Max Scherzer can't come out and continue to do this against teams that are not as good as the Astros. There's no reason Justin Verlander can't come out tomorrow and mow down this lineup, and we win a game 4-1 or something like that. So you got to take it one day at a time. Don't worry about the division, the wild card. If we don't win, none of that stuff matters anyway. So you got to keep winning, and I really wouldn't look at like where do you really, and I'm not saying that they can't, maybe this is the Diamondbacks' year, but do you really think the Diamondbacks win that division? Do you really think they run away with the National League? I don't. And listen, maybe I'm sitting here in October with a dunce cap on, maybe, but I don't think so, man. Some teams are just overperforming, and we're way too caught up in where we should have been. Where that's reality, right? But there's nothing we can do about that right now. What the Mets can do is continue to win. As long as they do that, good things will happen.
Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want my only response to that. I agree, it's one game at a time and whatnot, but I mean, you still got to look at what's in front of you, and what's in front of you is quite an uphill battle.
Oh yeah.
My thing is though, as far as the not trading for anyone, I just don't see. Last year was different. Last year, this team was in a real good spot at the deadline, and I don't think they thought they needed much to continue that. So that's why I think they kind of played it safe. I think if they're in a position where they feel like they can sneak into or get into the wild card spot and they're a move or two away from that, they're gonna try something. Steve Cohen isn't gonna just sit back and say, we'll just go with what we got. I just don't see that being the case. I can't see them just putting their hands up and saying, we're just gonna screw it. Let's just see what these guys can do.
My only response to that, Nelson, Chris, if I could, my only response to that, Nelson, is, it's like what's so hard about the deadline season, right? Is like you never know, and I don't ever want to come on, like you never know what report to believe. So like I don't want to come on here and like, because I mean, if there's one thing I can't stand in YouTube videos or Twitter Spaces, whenever us fans are getting together and talking, or when people are talking with such certainty that they know who the Mets were going to give away to like, we don't know, man, unless we're in that building, unless we're in the room with Billy and Buck and Steve, we have no idea what they were going to give up to get someone. Like, like my only counter, what you were just saying, they thought they didn't need much. Like from everything I heard, and once again, I don't know how valuable it was. Like I don't know how reliable Bob Nightingale is and John Heyman, but like everything I heard last trade deadline was that like we wanted Wilson Contreras and the Cubs were asking for Alvarez. Well, yeah, it would have been great to add Contreras, but looking at it now, was that worth giving up Alvarez? Like, and once again, we don't know. That's my only thing. I don't think it's always they don't think it's worth it to move up, but like we never know what the other teams are asking for. We never know.
Which is the reason why, and I want to get away from trade deadline talk here just a second, but to my final point on the trade deadline is why I think they will stay pat, because there's not going to be some miraculous different asking prices from the teams that the Mets are going to go try to engage in talks with. Maybe the White Sox go in, like to your point, and they pony up and they take a lower offer just because they want to get rid of those guys. I'm not sure what their contracts look like, but I really do think to that point is, that tax, so to speak, that the Mets saw last year is going to carry over into this season. Maybe they might make some low end deals to try to bolster this roster going forward to make a run for the wild card just for the optics of it. But they can't afford to lose these prospects that the other teams are going to be asking for. Now, we got some comments here. Shout out Jack. Says, happy Juneteenth, fellas. Appreciate you tuning into the stream. Jack also says, absolute gem from Scherzer tonight. A good outing from Verlander tomorrow, and I think this team turns the corner. And then he says, love your guys' content. Let's stay positive. Agree. That's why I want to get right into tomorrow's game. Yeah, shout out your guy, Jack. Always tuning in to supporting. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jack. Tomorrow, guys, you got Justin Verlander on the mound. Right. We get it. We've been saying this for how long now? The last couple of weeks. We said it against the Rays when they played the Guardians. We said it. Oh, that Braves series is going to be so critical because we were, 4.5 games back at that point, and we were up in all of those games, and we got swept in the end. And it's a sort of roller coaster of a season. Now we're like, oh, listen, this team just took a game in convincing fashion against the defending world champion Astros, 11-1. Scherzer threw a gem. Let's see what the co-ace Justin Verlander has in store tomorrow. Line predictions tomorrow for Justin Verlander. He's throwing the ball against his former team. Nelson, what are you looking for? Anything else that you're looking for in the game? And what can we expect out of Justin Verlander tomorrow?
I think he's going to be motivated out there against his old squad. situation like that, first game back in Houston. He's probably gonna. I could see he's just like everybody else. He's been one game he's really good, another next game he's bad, up and down. What last start he sucked, so I expect him to give us 6 or 7 innings tomorrow. It's
6 or
just
7
whether or not.
innings from you tomorrow.
Yeah,
Final
it's just
line: runs, hits, and
runs.
final innings for
I
Verlander.
mean, that's tough to predict, but I'll go 7 innings. Give us, I don't know, give up like 4 or 5 hits, maybe 2 runs, 8 or 9 Ks, something like that. I could see
Score
something like that
prediction: Mets
happening.
win or not?
Again, that's tough. I'll try. I'll be the optimistic guy and say the Mets win like 4-2, but they could also shit the bed. So who knows?
I was gonna say we've seen it where we take a game in convincing fashion. We saw it against the Cardinals series. McGill cruised in game one, and then Kodai Senga had a little bit of a disappointing start in game two, and we inevitably lose that series, which I do want to touch on after Matt gives his prediction for tomorrow, because we have something really interesting to talk about. A really good perspective on a Buck Showalter decision that I just quite frankly need to get off my chest. Matt, prediction for tomorrow. Verlander and the Mets win. What's the score? Tell me all about
I
tomorrow. What are you expecting?
I think similar to. I think he approaches it similar to the Yankee game. I think he attacks batters, but still kind of picks his spots. I think he's going to throw a lot of pitches. I don't think he goes 7. I think he goes 6, maybe 6 1/3. I don't know how many strikeouts. I listen. Give us 6. Give us 6 innings, 2 or 3 runs, and I think this team could win. 6 innings, two,
Gotcha.
3 runs. That's all I'm asking for out of Verlander tomorrow. If he could give us anything more than that, we shouldn't be saying that because he's making a lot of money. But give me 6 innings, 2, 3 runs. I'll be happy.
Sounds good. Jack says 8 innings pitched for Verlander,
Ooh.
3 hits, no runs. I'm gonna say 6 innings pitched as well. I don't know if I'm too confident, but I'll say I was confident to win the series. I think they get it done tomorrow. I think the Mets win. I'll say a score of 6-5. We'll win by 1 run. Justin Verlander will go 6. Probably give up 3 earned runs. Maybe get a little 10 strikeout action. We'll go double-digit strikeouts for Justin Verlander. We'll see what he has in store, but definitely impressive performance for Scherzer. We need to keep building. And McGill also, who was doing really well against the Cardinals. We'll see if he can bring in any consistency in game 3 of against the Astros. I know Nelson is not really big on a McGill, but we'll see. I think he's sort of a roller coaster type guy. All right, next topic that I want to get into, because this really, really, really irked me, and I'm not sure if you all agree with the decision or not. Yesterday's game against the Cardinals, you were in a prime spot to win a very winnable ball game against a Cardinals team that has been ailing this season. Their lineup looks great on paper, but they have been absolutely ailing. And the offense keeps this team in the game yesterday, right? The day game, it's Father's Day. Carrasco doesn't have a great start. He gives up 6 earned runs over 3 innings pitched. Offense does a great job. It's 7-7 heading into the 8th inning. David Robertson goes 1-2-3 inning in the 8th inning. 8 pitches, 7 of them in the strike zone. And Buck Showalter makes the decision to pull David Robertson and puts in Adam Ottavino in the 9th inning. Inevitably, we all know what happens. Adam Ottavino, who's been shaky this season in high leverage situations, gives up a go-ahead bomb to Nolan Arenado, the same guy who he struck out the day before. Let's see. I want to hear you guys' thoughts, because guess what? We just blew out the Astros 11-1. We did not need David Robertson for today's game. Buck Showalter was managing for the next series. He was managing for tomorrow instead of putting his team in a position to win a very winnable ball game that day. That day. And I hate that decision. I absolutely despised it. I'm not saying that decision, if he made the decision to stick with Robertson, would have won us the game. But what I'm saying is that you play the numbers. They love to play the numbers. They love to play the analytics. They love to go with the hot hand. So why are you not throwing David Robertson out there again after he just threw 8 pitches and a 1-2-3 inning against the top or the meat of the Cardinals order? Nelson, you're up. First and foremost, I just want to get your perspective, because I know there's been a lot of back and forth in the decision, Buck Showalter likes to do this. He likes to teeter back and forth with this back end of the rotation. I don't understand it. Nelson, go ahead.
Well, you had two options. You go to Robertson for the second inning, or he could have gone to Ottavino before Robertson, which I don't see why he didn't do that either, because Robertson would have been set up to go against their big guns, and he's the better pitcher. The only reason not is he's gonna say, I didn't hear the post game, but I imagine he said something to the effect, well, I need Robertson tomorrow, blah blah blah. But this is his problem all season. He always manages for something that hasn't happened. A few weeks ago, it was I forget the pitchers exactly, but he saved the guy because he said he didn't know what would happen in the 10th inning. It's like, no, bro, you need to manage for the inning that's in front of you, the game that's in front of you, not tomorrow's game or the next game. It's manage in the moment. For the love of God, just manage in the moment. That's all I ask of you. But he constantly does this, and it drives me insane. And if he can't adjust, it's going to be to our detriment unless we constantly start blowing teams out, which that's probably not going to happen. It's just I don't understand it. He's too stubborn. I don't get it.
And add on to that fact is that even if he wanted Adam Ottavino in that game, he still could have done it if the game wasn't 1 in the 9th. He still has him for the 10th. I don't understand it, Matt. What are your thoughts on that decision?
Listen, I've been killing Buck all year. That's another one of those. From where we're sitting, I agree with you, and I'm not telling you you're wrong. The only thing there's two things I can imagine that would make, if I'm the manager, that would make me do the same thing. Sometimes it's. I was at a barbecue, so I wasn't able to watch the end of this game, so I don't know how long Robertson had sat for. A lot of times, especially a guy that's up there in age, you don't want him sitting for 10, 15 minutes, then getting back up and throwing again. I don't know how long it was. And did Robertson say something to him like he couldn't go? I mean, which I doubt because Robertson's a competitive guy. He looks great. So I doubt Robertson would say that. So if none of those things happened, and I'm assuming they didn't, then yeah, like I don't know what you're thinking. Are you trying to manage for tomorrow when you have today? You could have salvaged the series. I mean, goes back to something I said probably a month ago now. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know that you're going to need this guy. That doesn't mean burn through your bullpen. That's not what I'm saying. But, man, you come back in a game like you're down. They were down 6-1, 5-1, whatever it was. You come back in a game like that, you got to ride that momentum. You can't be a momentum killer. You know, managers cannot. I know, Jack. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. Don't be a jerk. Managers can never win you games. They can't. The players got to win you games. But managers can lose you games. And decisions like that leads to a loss. I'm not going to kill Ottavino. He's been up and down. But you as the manager, you got to know that. You got to feel the pulse of this team. You know? So,
yeah.
And it's getting cute. It's getting cute when you didn't have to be.
Yeah, and Adam Ottavino's command looked very off. His slider did not look good yesterday whatsoever. And quite frankly, like you said, you never know what you're going to get the next day. Did any one of us expect the Mets to win 11-1 today? Because I sure as hell didn't. No. I'm going to be honest with you right there. But in the end, we didn't need David Robertson, and we can say that in hindsight. But even if you anticipate needing David Robertson against the Astros, I don't care. Win a series and you'll worry about tomorrow.
I have an update on Francisco Alvarez. I see on SNY. Left the game in the 9th. X-rays came back negative on his hand. Doesn't mean that the MRI or CT, they won't. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But positive. X-rays came back negative. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. I just wanted to get that out there.
No worries. Very big positive. I know his hand looked a little swollen there. Good to have that good news on him. Hopefully everything's all right with any further imaging that they do. Another positive of the bullpen. We're getting into some positives here because you know what? We can be negative about this team all day, and I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. So is Nelson. So is Matt. I think that's the kind of, philosophy that we're alluding to here. Take everything with a grain of salt. Take it day by day. But Dominic Leone, also another guy that we've been
Yeah.
pretty much crapping on, has been stringing together some really, really good outings. And he's been, besides Rayleigh and Robertson, because I'm not going to even lump Ottavino into being that reliable guy, Dominic Leone over the past week and a half to 2 weeks has been a reliable guy for this bullpen, and he will continue to be very important for this team going forward before those later innings, before we get to Rayleigh, before we get to Robertson. So Dominic Leone, have you guys seen anything in terms of like his location, his command, his any sort of his pitches? Like, what do you think about Dominic Leone? Do you think this is just some sort of facade and we're going to get the old Dominic Leone that we saw in his first couple outings? And I don't want to say that, but listen, man, this guy, he has a real potential to be a difference maker going down the next couple of weeks. And we're going to need that in those early bullpen sort of innings. So anything that you guys are seeing with Dominic Leone, I just want to point out the positives. Like I said, fam, Leone, got to give him the props. Matt, you're up.
Hey, maybe Dominic Leone, and let's knock on wood here before we jinx something else. Sign of the cross, right? Maybe Dominic Leone is the Drew Smith of 2021. Maybe, right? So,
Maybe.
I don't know. I can't tell you that I've looked at his velocity. I can't tell you. I can't tell you a whole lot about what he's throwing, but his breaking balls look good. His location looks great. Once again, also knock on wood. So keep riding it. I mean, you have no other choice. There's not a lot of options in this bullpen. It's Ottavino. Sometimes it's Robertson, and it's like Brigham and Leone. So do what you have to do. Ride it out, especially with the 10-game suspension of Drew Smith. You can't fill that spot, so you're already running shorthanded. So do what you have to do. Hopefully Alvarez is okay. Those X-rays came back negative. Hopefully it's nothing else. That's pretty much most of what I got here. And keep throwing Pham out there in the lineup. At this point, that guy should be out there every day. There's no excuse for him not to play. Let Canna figure out his way in the lineup. If you want to give Alonso a day off here and there to let that wrist heal, I don't know. But yeah, no, keep throwing Pham out there. And you know what? At that rate, that's like 2 real good games from Vogie. I'm not a big – I was calling for his job just like you guys were, but keep playing Vogie. You have nothing else to lose. Keep playing Vogie.
Yep. We got Keith, a.k.a. Keith from Shane Sons. Great night from Lindor and Vogie. Hashtag LGM. Let's go Mets. Shout out him for tuning in. Shout out Shane Sons as well. Definitely appreciate that. One name that I didn't hear you mention, Matt, is ex-med student Grant. I think his last name was what? Hartwig. We saw him today. Number 93 just called up today. John Curtis sent down. So shout out him making his MLB debut, Mets debut. No earned runs. I think he gave up, what was it, a walk or was it a hit to open up the inning? But he got that double play with Lindor up the middle, and everything was all good there. So they didn't need Jeff Brigham. Nelson, Dominic Leone, any thoughts on him or the rest of the bullpen moving forward?
Listen, guys like Dominic Leone, almost any of these earlier in the inning game guys, they are what they are. They're up and down. Bullpens are volatile. You'll get a stretch where these guys look lights out, and then you get another stretch where they look like crap. It's the nature of bullpens in baseball. Unless you're like the back inning, late inning lights out guy, you're more than likely just going to be up and down. Hopefully he continues this for a while. A guy I do want to touch on that has looked impressive is that Josh Walker kid. Lefty out of the pen. He's looked good. Hopefully he can keep that up. Having more than one lefty, I think, is always important. And finally, we do have a couple. So it's just is what it is, man. Everybody's been riding that roller coaster on the team in general and definitely in the bullpen. The only guy that's really been consistently good is Robertson. Everybody else has just been up and down. Rayleigh's looked lights out at times, and there's other times he looks shaky. Ottavino, we've already touched on him. Leone, we've touched on him. Smith, as long as you don't introduce him to swimsuit models, he looks great. And then once he meets them, his season's in the tank.
Man, I'm out on Smith, but yeah, I
So
agree.
wherever you are with your sticky stuff, I don't really care if you're back or not. Hopefully this Hartwig kid, I mean, he gave up a hit, but I like the ground ball there. Hopefully he gives us something. You never know with these guys. Bullpen arms is one of those things where you can find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. So
Agreed.
let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens with them. Like I said earlier today, we're going to get into 2 more topics tonight, and then wrap it up. But like I said earlier, follow at Interstate Mets, the new Mets Day After show debuting June 27th. Nelson and we got that hopping up. We're trying to build that. It's going to be very fun, a new project for us. So make sure you're tuning into that. Follow the Twitter page at Interstate Mets. You see our beautiful faces. You can see them a lot more on these post games on the day after. And we can get into that. One thing, we're going to have 2 topics of discussion here. Not really related to the Mets Astros right now, but Jack brings up a great proposition that honestly, with the way things are going, I know it would be a little bit of a stretch to do right now, especially needing Leone in that sort of bullpen spot. But at some point, if Leone proves to be a viable, consistent guy for us moving forward, I'm not saying he is just yet, but if he does, listen, we got a problem with that 5 spot right now, and that's Carlos Carrasco. He's kind of stinks. And Jack's asking if we think Carrasco should be moved to the pen and let Leone be an opener for, I don't know, whoever comes up. Lucchesi, if he comes up, can be that 5th starter type guy. I don't know if I trust Carrasco in any situation, regardless if it's a starting job or if it's a bullpen job. I definitely don't want him in any sort of high leverage bullpen situations. Maybe like a long reliever in an out of reach game if we really have to use his services for that option that we picked up for $15 million earlier this offseason. What do you think about this? This is interesting. Maybe you can use Leone as the opener for Carrasco starts, because we know Carrasco, once he starts getting settled in after the first and second innings, he can give you maybe 2 or 3 scoreless innings. So you use Leone and Carrasco as a combination. I just think it's such a detriment to talk about Leone being an opener for a guy like Carrasco who got brought back on $15 million option. It's like, really, we got to cover your ass now by putting an opener in there for you every 5th day? What do you think? Matt, go ahead. Give us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I don't know what the numbers are on using an opener. Like, most teams don't do it. Tampa's famous for it. I feel like I've seen Cleveland do it before. The Yankees did it a couple times last year. I could be wrong. Yeah, sometimes it's not always like the easiest transition to move a starter into the pen. We saw that with David Peterson and Tyler McGill last year. We thought they were going to be great.
Yeah, they struggled
Coming out of the pen, and they were worse than they were as a starter. So
yep.
I don't know. I don't know. Listen, my big thing right now is win at any cost. Win at any cost. It doesn't have to be conventional. So if that means using an opener, use an opener. Okay. The downside to using an opener is you're kind of burning through your bullpen pretty quickly, right? So you have Leone come in, you get 2 innings, like you said, out of Carrasco, and then what? Now from the 4th to the 9th, and that's if you don't go into extra innings, you're burning your bullpen out. So that's just got to be something that's thought about. And to be fair to Carrasco, he's another one that's been up and down this year. His 2 starts before this were fantastic. They were great. So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I would like to try Lucchesi before I go to anything else, because I still to this day don't understand. And I love Tyler. And Tyler had a great last outing against St. Louis, but I still don't understand why Tyler's in the rotation and Lucchesi isn't. Or especially now with a guy You're down a guy in your bullpen. Why are we not going to a 6-man rotation? You got two 40-year-olds out there, and you have Kodai Senga who needs 6 days rest. And let's stop with this narrative that he's got to adjust to us. And no, we're not in a position to tell someone to adjust to us. Right now, we're losing. We need your best outing. If your best outing is after one more day of rest, then we need to adjust to you. That's how this works, man. So I think we should, before we go into openers, go to a 6-man rotation. Bring Lucchesi back. What do you lose? Everybody gets an extra day's rest, and Lucchesi doesn't work out. Go back to a 5-man rotation. You're already down a guy in the bullpen. You need all the help you can get.
Shout out Kenny. He also says the same thing. He said he'd rather go to Lucchesi. He can't be worse than Cookie. Obviously, you'd need both those guys if you're going to 6-man rotation. As of right now, Quintana's status is still up in the air. I think he's thrown a couple of games in St. Lucie. I think he just threw three and a third the other day that I saw. Gave up, I think, 1 earned run, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but he has a couple of rehab starts under his belt, so we'll get Quintana back soon. What was that?
You're looking at July for Quintana.
Sometime
in the month of July.
So Nelson, what do you think? Is it a 6-man rotation? Is it a opener for Cookie? Is it, just leave Cookie as is? What do we do going forward with the back end of the rotation?
I just don't think we're in a position to get cute right now. It's easy to say play Tampa Bay Rays baseball, but our roster isn't built like for that kind of baseball. Tampa's got guys that they specifically have to play that brand of ball and have openers, and their bullpen's deep. Ours isn't. To Matt's point, like, you kind of put yourself in a bad spot if you burn Leon early and then Cookie doesn't have it. Then you're trying to find a way to get through 9 innings with not many great options. So I don't love that idea. As far as a 6-man rotation, I like that idea a little better. I thought at one point, and I think Buck before the season even said we were maybe going to do that, and I think maybe injuries have kept us from that. I would go with that. Maybe we'll see it after the All-Star break. Maybe they wait till Quintana comes back to kind of figure out that whole situation. I could see giving Lucchesi a shot, but again, I don't think if these guys keep doing this up and down crap, I don't think they're going to knock anybody out of the rotation for Lucchesi, because the minute they pitch like crap and then the next inning they look like Cy Young, it's like, or the next game they look like Cy Young. So it puts the front office in a tough spot, because it's like, well, we don't want to cut a guy that's maybe turning it around, but then he looks like he's not turning it around. So I don't know. I would definitely consider a 6-man rotation. I think Senga could use the extra rest. I think it helps him a lot. He's another guy. He's been probably our best starter this year, oddly enough, but he's also inconsistent. So
yeah,
I think if you really break down the games, I think Verlander ultimately has been the best. I think his numbers are inflated from like the 2 really awful starts he's had. Outside of that, he's been pretty reliable. He's been pretty good. And going forward to tomorrow, we should expect big things from him tomorrow. We should expect him to come out and ball and be a dog, just like Scherzer was. Man, if these 2 guys can get going, you're talking about a night and day season, a night and day team. If Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander can get going, I'm not even saying back to their Cy Young self. Oddly enough, Verlander's was last year. If you could just come out to be like a consistent 6 innings, 7-inning guy, giving up 2 runs, this is a team that could very well win 65% of the rest of their season. If you do that, if you give that,
what did you say? And what did you say, Nelson? What was your goal for July? You had a goal for the Mets to get somewhere. You said 500 or something of that nature.
Yeah, I wanted the Mets to get to 500 by July 1st. Okay. And I think for that, they needed to go 10-6. Obviously, they have started out since then. They're 3 and 3 or something like that. So It just hasn't been great. If they go on a little run, they can still do it. But yeah, I that's my first goal for the team. I have like little mini goals. My first goal is get back to 500, then climb from there. But you have to get to 500.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, we're playing the teams exactly who, we need to beat to get into that spot. We got the Phillies coming up. We got the Brewers right after that. All teams that the Mets are looking up on. And this is not, I bet you Mets Twitter is going to start singing a different tune if the Mets find a way to win these series back to back. And that starts tomorrow versus the Astros. Get it out of the way. You can do whatever you want in the third game, obviously like a sweep. Because the Astros are just coming off of a sweep from the Reds, who are playing phenomenal ball as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Justin Verlander, I'm going to hold him accountable. I've been holding Scherzer accountable. I've been holding Verlander accountable both, but they both need to just step up, like Matt just said, together in tandem, which is what we haven't seen so far this season. One gets, has a great start. The other falters, and it's just kind of like a back and forth seesaw kind of battle. Let's see here. Jack says the Coors Field mulligan for Verlander. Kenny says if Senga is at his best with extra rest, we have to give him extra rest, like Matt said. I completely agree with that. I agree because we definitely need Senga as well behind the top two guys. And then the last kind of point that I want to touch on here is kind of a way ahead look forward. It kind of I don't like to end with this because it goes back into the trade deadline, but I saw the comment here and we might as well get to it. Jack says, I didn't expect any production from Pham. I really hope we're not sellers at the deadline. But if the Mets somehow are, Pham will be probably a guy to offload, and so will Robertson. I don't think the Mets are going to be sellers just because the optics of that under this Cohen era would be horrendous. It would be bad. It'd be something that we wouldn't hear about, we wouldn't hear the end of it until the Mets eventually won that chip. So I don't want to talk about Mets being sellers, but you are right. If it were to come down to that, it'd be Pham and Robertson first and foremost, maybe Eddie Escobar heading out in there. But quick thought before we get into that. Mets strike out on Ohtani in the offseason. Michael Conforto, you in on a reunion or not? Just real quick. No? Yes, no? Nelson?
I mean, it depends on what's available and what we're looking at, but I think I would avoid it. I don't like. I'm not a big guy retread fan. Like, I don't like bringing guys back. It hardly ever works out for us. We bring guys back and they end up being not nearly as good as they were. I don't love it.
Listen, if we're talking like 6 years from now, like the Mets are looking for like a platoon, or I shouldn't say 6, maybe like 4 years from now, the Mets are looking for like a platoon, 5th, 4th. I shouldn't even say 4th. By then, yeah, whatever, a 4th, 5th outfielder. You want to give him a chance. You want to give him vet minimum. You want to sell some T-shirts. Okay, fine, no problem. You're telling me I want to go back to like praying this guy goes on a hot streak? I love Lindor, but we already have one of those. And listen, they're two different players, but I'm talking at the plate. I already have one of those guys. I already have a guy that goes on a hot streak for 2 weeks and then can't find a fastball for 3 weeks. Like, I don't need another one of those guys. I hate to be that guy, but that's the reality. That's what it is.
Yeah, we have multiple of those in the lineup. Pete's also could be lumped into that category this season.
But Pete finds his way into, at this point now, whatever it is, 23 home runs. Like, Pete may not always have the hits, but he finds his way into the runs. He finds his way into the power.
Well, I mean, Lindor has found his way into what, 14, 15 homers and 50 RBIs?
14 home runs, 50 RBIs.
He's third in the NL in RB. Like, people get on Lindor, but he's still arguably the best shortstop in the National League for sure. Like, the dude, his average sucks. He needs to be better, but he's still giving you solid production. So
it's a rough conversation to have because it's a rough conversation to have because I'd get on Marte before I got on Lindor. I'd get on.
But there's a difference, Chris. There's a difference. I think it's a good conversation to have. It's not a bad one. It's a good one. It's a fair one. You're paying a
It's a
lot.
fair one. I agree.
You're paying a lot for this guy. The expectations, like we rolled out the red carpet, and there's I shouldn't say there's nobody that loves Lindor more than me because there's plenty. I love Lindor. I really do. And a lot of his stats are so like they're so polarizing, right? So like since he's come here, I think over half of his home runs have been to either tie the game or go ahead in the game. So like to tell me that he's never clutch is not even it's beyond false. Like it's
We know. Yeah, he's a clutch
we
player
know that
for sure.
he's clutch, but
He's not consistent, is what you're
it's
saying.
not
He's not consistent.
and there's just
I hear you.
there's so many points where he lets you down, and that's why it is really hard. Like I love him. I love it's a complicated relationship. I think to harp on the money is foolish. To harp on the money is foolish because Steve Cohen's pockets are deep. There's a luxury tax literally named after him. Like this guy doesn't. If this was the Wilpon Mets, I think we would be singing a different tune on Lindor because that would be your one free agent. That would be the only guy you have for the next decade, and you pray that the kids come up from the minors and resurrect the franchise.
So what are you saying then? Are you so that is the point you're trying to get at that Lindor has a longer leash now because it is under Cohen? He has that kind of money under Cohen.
I think we look at him differently, and you have to look at him differently. If you were getting Lindor and he was the only thing you were getting, and the fate of the franchise was in his hands, we would kill him because nobody's ever going to live up to that money. That's crazy money. No one's ever going to live up to that.
He gets killed anyway.
Well, no, he does get killed, Nelson. But what I'm saying is it would be a lot worse if we couldn't get Verlander, we couldn't get Scherzer, we couldn't afford anybody else. Like the way the Wilpons used to run this team, if they were still running this team, Lindor would have been ran out of town by now. But because
I think it's been close. I don't think it's been far off. Lindor's definitely not been the only scapegoat, I will say. But yeah, I don't want to overtake this thing with Lindor.
It's different if you live here, and every time
I'm
you
like
get in the car,
tired of this Lindor conversation.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but to my point, to the point is the stats line up to where the team in general, Marte needs to get on track, Lindor needs to get on track. Pete's hitting 225. I love the bombs, I love the RBIs from both of those guys in the middle of the lineup, 3 and 4. But those guys need to get on track. Pete's included in that. I know he's coming off the wrist injury. He just got his first hit since coming back off. This is his second game back. I want to see what he does. McNeil's another guy's OPS is dipping a little bit. I always trusted McNeil, but he's been sort of up and down as well this season. Nimmo has really been, to me, the only staple in this lineup who I can seriously consider, and now Tommy Pham, but I'm saying like consistently to get on base. He's hitting, 286, 287?
But it keeps dipping, man.
What was that?
That average keeps dipping.
Well, he was in 330. That's not sustainable for him. I mean, 280. He's been floating about 285 for the last 2 weeks, from what I've noticed. But I hear you. It's all of them, though. It's all of them.
But even when Nimmo, that's another thing. It's dipping, but even when it's bad, it's still 286, and a lot of that's carried by a very, very heavy April. Right? He had an unrealistic April.
Yeah, that was unsustainable.
That set him up for where he is right now. But listen to us right now. We're talking about it's not great. He's still batting 286. That's still damn good. And he's finding a little pocket of power that he's never found before as a Met. He's actually hitting home runs. He's bringing runs in. So listen, has Nimmo been great? No. Has he dipped? He's absolutely dipped. But if 286 is a dip, man, I'll take that any day. That's fine by me. It's not great.
Which makes what Luis Ariz, what he's doing over there in Miami right now, all more impressive. Went 5 for 5 today, average up to 395 on the season. We're in mid-June. That is absolutely phenomenal. Nelson, any final points? I know Jack says to follow up on your goal for the Mets. He says to get to 500, the Mets need to go 7-3. He followed that up by doing the math. He said it's 8-2 actually. He said AKA not happening. Any final thoughts, Nelson,
Yeah.
about the Mets, about the game today, about the game tomorrow? Give us a little spiel about the channel. I'm gonna prop up the little banner here. Let's hear it from Nelson. Let's close this out here. I want to close this out.
Yeah, to Jack's point, I made that goal before the Yankee series, so that was
Yeah.
obviously it didn't happen, and it's probably not going to happen. But at least if we could get close to 500 at this point, I'll take it. As far as today's game, man, they look great. You can't. What is there to complain about today? I mean, Nimmo went 0 for 5, big deal. Everybody else got a hit. Lindor got a homer, a double. Bogey got a homer. Everybody was hitting, and Max looked good. We just need more of this from Max. We need consistency. The whole team, we need consistency. We've been harping on it over and over and over and over again. If we're not consistent and we keep doing this up and down, one game good, one game bad, then we're not going anywhere. And we're going to be having the same conversation every freaking night. So for our sake, hopefully they do start to win a few games in a row and start taking series. Like for me, the goal is just win series. Take 2 out of 3. We're not going to sweep every series. That's unrealistic. But win series. And that's what we need to do going forward. Tomorrow, Verlander. Yeah, starting tomorrow, Verlander, we need him to show up. We signed you for $40 million. We need you to pitch like it.
Yep.
That's the end of the day. That's what we need. And hopefully he does. We got to take advantage of Yordan not being in that lineup. The Astros look suspect without him. We got to pounce on that. We haven't been able to pounce on teams that are struggling this year. The Cardinals series proved that. The Pirates, before we played them, they started reeling. They lost to Oakland a series, and then since they beat us, they've lost like 7 in a row. So we're not beating teams that we should beat. So tomorrow, just win the game tomorrow, man. Get us a series, give us something positive to build off of. Building blocks for individual players. We need building for the team as a whole. We just need building blocks. As far as the channel, follow me, subscribe at Amish Country Mets Fan. Be on the lookout for that. Our new show, Interstate Mets Report, June 27th. Excited to do that. I mean, I feel like we got a good group here. I'd love to do these post games as well. So hopefully we can keep rolling with these. And yeah, man, thanks.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep doing this. Thanks
for hosting, and it's good night. Good night to be a Mets fan. Let's go Mets.
It is. Matt, you're up.
Nelson, can we smile a little bit? Just a little bit more. A little bit more. No, Chris, first of all, thank you again. Just like Nelson said, thank you again for hosting. You put in a ton of work setting up these banners, setting up these logos. So I appreciate it. I don't know how to do any of this. So I appreciate you a lot for doing this. I think I speak for both me and Nelson when I say that.
Yep.
Nelson hit the nail on the head. I can only say so much more after that. Come out and keep winning series. Like, don't look at the standings. Don't look at where the Phillies are. Don't look at where the Braves are. Don't look at the Marlins. And man, everybody going nuts about the Marlins. I don't know. I get 2021 Mets vibes from the Marlins. Like, I don't know that rocket's going to keep going into the sky. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm eating my words just like I am about the Diamondbacks. But, like, those are two teams that notoriously don't spend, notoriously don't do the right things by their organization, and we're not expected to be winners this year. So at some point, the other shoe's got to drop for one of those teams. I'm not saying it's the Marlins, but it's got to be for somebody. And keep winning series. Like we said, if none of this means anything if they come out tomorrow and they flop, and then they come out Wednesday and they flop. So make this a building block. Yes, 8-2 by July 1st would be great, but like, you know what? Like you said an hour ago, Nelson, like let's be within 3 games of the wild card by the deadline or by the All-Star break. Like, let's be there. And then we could kind of look at our season much different, right? So you come out and you beat the Astros 2 out of 3. You beat the Phillies 2 out of 3, or is that a 4-game series? Which one's a 4-game series? whatever it
I have
is.
that pulled up.
Whatever it is.
The Brewers series is a
Brewers.
4-game series.
Oh, another one. Jesus. Anyways, come out and be within a game of 500 by July 1st. And I think we're all singing a different tune. I think we're all looking at things differently. I think because, boys, you could say it doesn't affect your mood, but I know damn well it does. There is just something different about waking up to go to work, driving in knowing the Mets won last night. The Mets won, and you could talk about it with your coworkers, even though I can't talk about it with my coworkers because they don't speak English and they don't watch baseball. But that's okay. I can talk to myself. So, listen. Thank you again, Chris. Thank you again, Nelson. I'm at Flushing Sunny 41. My website is sunnydaysinflushing.com. I haven't had a chance to post a blog in a while. I've been using the blog time to jump on these live streams, which I've found to be a little more productive in terms of building the brand and getting more followers, get more people to see what I'm doing. So when I get a chance, hopefully at some point this week, I'll crank out another blog. I'll do some more stuff with the YouTube channel. But thank you guys again for the platform. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, of course. And we got one last minute question that I will address before I kind of give my little spiel here at the end. Jack asks if the Cubs want to sell and take offers on Stroman. Is Epler even answering the phone? The answer is no. Even if it wasn't Stroman, I think Stroman is enough to just say no from, just based off what he's had to say about the organization in general and the fans. I think he'd have a serious conversation on his end with the Cubs organization saying he does not want to go back to New York anyways. But I think that the Cubs and Mets negotiation ties after how talks went, to your point last year, Matt, is donezo for a good while. So
I wouldn't touch Stroman with a 10-foot pole. And I think every organization out there, they see those tweets. They see what this guy does.
Yeah.
It's a lot of off the field nonsense. I've heard some things here and there from the clubhouse, but once again, nothing.
Yeah, we're not here to get into the whole Stroman thing. I mean, he's pretty voiced his opinion on Twitter about the Mets. I just think from an organization aspect, regardless of whoever the Cubs are hitting up, the Mets for or vice versa, I think that the way the negotiations have been in the past with the Cubs, especially last year when they were talking about the Wilson Contreras, because we talked about that earlier today, just their demands is just something that I just would shy away from.
I think it's tough to say that though. Like negotiations, teams, the way teams think, that changes year to year. Like, we can say there's a Cohen tax, but I don't. Just because we couldn't work out a deal with them last year doesn't mean we can't work out something this year for a different guy. I mean, I wouldn't do it for Stroman, but it just depends on what we have. New prospects, new guys we drafted. If a certain team is enamored with a certain guy, they might want him. You just never know. It's hard to just make finite statements like that. Like we're just not going to be able to make a deal.
There was some reasons where I said that because what are the other guys that they have to offer? I mean, you're talking about like Patrick Wisdom or guys like that. I mean, these guys are going to cost an arm and a leg anyways. They don't really have many guys who I would say, oh, they can help this team immediately, and they're not going to want an arm and a leg for. So that was the basis of my point of saying no. But also the fact that these guys are just operating like the Toronto Raptors of the MLB and are being really hard and difficult to negotiate with. But that's my point on it. But I agree with your guys' sentiment as well.
I like the kid Suzuki, Seiya Suzuki. I know the Mets had kind of kicked the tires on him, but they never really did. They never really made a legit offer, I guess. But I don't know that they would even want to trade him. But that would be an awesome guy, an awesome guy to bring in. I've heard great stuff about him around the clubhouse from a production standpoint. Like the guy produces at the plate. He's got some pop. He's got some power. He's a great contact hitter. And he's damn good in the field.
They're letting him go.
If that's a route,
I don't think they're letting him go. Those guys aren't letting him go. I mean,
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell who's going to be available this early.
Right. The Cubs are in the same position right now as the Mets. They're 5 games back in the wild card. So the Mets need to start winning some games before we even have that conversation. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Nelson and Matt, I mean, we're going on over an hour here, hour 15. We can sit here all day and all night chopping up. But the final points is right now, the Mets go into tomorrow with Justin Verlander on the mound with the opportunity to not play any games and win a series against the defending champs. We just said the tune of the rest of the season is to win series. It starts right now. It starts with these teams that we play until the All-Star break. Let's start winning series, and let's start that tomorrow with the ace on the bump against his former team. Mets win in convincing fashion tonight, 11-1. Game balls all around. Max Scherzer and Lindor getting our co-game ball from Nelson and I, and Daniel Vogelback getting the game ball from Matt. Always appreciate the guys hopping on the pod. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Jack, Kenny, Keith, Rob, all of the regulars that tune in and comment, all of the guys who are subscribed to the channel, supporting the content. You don't go unnoticed. Definitely want to support back. So let me know. Shoot me a message.
Oh boy, did we lose? Did we lose Chris?
I think we lost Chris. Yeah, he said he was going to lose his internet.
No, I'm back.
yeah,
I'm back. I guess that's my sign to shut up now. I guess it's my time to shut up. The Mets need to win. They need to put up or shut up here starting tomorrow, starting for the rest of the season. It starts tomorrow. That's all I got to say. I appreciate everyone joining in. Before I cut off again, we're clipping it here. Have a great rest of your night, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining me. And let's go Mets, guys. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. Keep the faith.